Hello.
Hello,
Just saw my
everybody.
face pop out. Hello to me. Hello to you.
I feel like I should have done us before the background. It's a lesson learned, everybody. I'm really sorry. We're still dealing with these very new technical features. We're really moving up in the world.
With it, and it will stay that way.
Yeah. How are you, Jess? You okay?
Yeah, I'm really good. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Very well. I feel like it's crazy because it was Halloween this time last week, and already it feels like it's Christmas now.
Oh my God, I actually heard Christmas music in a supermarket the other day, and I was like, I'm just going to have to not go shopping for the next 2 months because otherwise I'll go insane.
That's crazy. And then because they take all the stuff down in halfway through January, so it's literally 2.5 months now, Christmas.
Yeah.
But
the Christmas creep.
Christmas, yeah, absolutely. But otherwise, hello and welcome to everybody. Welcome to all you pour and sippers. Welcome to all you regulars. And welcome to all of you new pour and sippers who are joining us for the first time. My name is Andy, and this is my co-host Jess, and we will be your drivers tonight throughout this live tasting. And we've got some amazing whiskey to try tonight, which I'm really excited about. It feels like for the first time in a very long time, we're just staying in Scotland, right?
Yeah, actually, I hadn't clocked that, but you're so right.
Which is the first time in forever.
I think a lot of people will be quite happy with that.
No, I'm into it. I'm not complaining. So it's a good thing. So for all of you guys who are already commenting, thank you. And for all of those of you who are new to Pour and Sip, please comment away. We're a very, very open community here. Please comment with your tasting notes, your thoughts, what you're thinking, any questions. Well, what you're thinking regarding the whiskey. I really don't. Other stuff, you can leave that out of the comment section.
But sometimes it's a good read.
Yeah, it depends how interesting it is. Any questions you have for our guests, because we've got some awesome guests lined up for you tonight presenting these amazing whiskies. I never do this bit because I always forget. Jess, let's everybody know the order and who we are speaking to tonight and in what order.
Okay, so first up, we will be sipping the Glengoyne, and that's with Ambassador Gordon. And then Andy will be taking the reins on that one. And then I get to taste the wonderful Jura 16-year-old with their single malt specialist, Andy, which I realized there was now an option to have a double Andy situation, which we missed. So next time. So yeah, the Glengoyne, then the Jura, and then our final dram that we'll be tasting will be the Glendronach 12-year-old with assistant blender Kirsten. And then obviously 5 drams in one evening is quite a lot. So Andy and I will run you through the final 2 drams from White Heather and Bonnington, but absolutely no pressure to try them all tonight.
Awesome. That sounds like a good lineup. I think, Jess, you stole my doing Jura during WhatsApp, and then you missed out on the double Andy situation.
I know, a double whammy of 4 decisions from me, but I was like, I have such a soft spot for Jura, so I really wanted to try
it. We usually fight tooth and nail on WhatsApp for who is doing these interviews with who.
There's a Jess, feel free to steal her from me.
Okay. So there's probably enough of us. We'll probably get trying some whiskey. Just a few comments coming in. Everybody is already commenting. P. Burrett, nice to see you again, mate. Good evening, all. Alex Battersby, evening, all. David Willock is looking forward to meeting up with Steve and Williams. Are you doing some kind of pour and sip meetup?
Oh, there's another pour and sip reunion. Amazing.
Where's my invite?
Hey? It's on the chat, Andy. Actually, all are welcome, Steve and Williams.
Richard Wingrave, evening, all. Simon Smith, evening, all. Steve Williams is saying one of his neighbours has the Christmas lights up already. It's ridiculous, outrageous. This is
take him down.
If I was running for office, I would. That would be something I would put in. The delayed Christmas kind of light situation. It needs to be kind of December the 1st. That's when it's done. Mike Pizarro, just bourbon cask as a warm up. Thanks, Matt. Richard Wingrave is making a Christmas cake this weekend, so the season is definitely approaching. Some people might say I should have made it already.
Who's those people?
there you go. Who are these people? Real Boinga, hello, welcome back. And Steve, howdy doody. Evening. Good evening, everybody. Right, let's get going. So I'm going to invite our first guest, Gordon, onto the screen.
Hello.
Hello. Why am I thinking about Michael McIntyre's The Wheel? I feel I've just come up from downstairs.
Yeah,
The money.
Again, these are production values that will now be put in place. We've already got the loading screen before going live, so we're going to soon expect our guests to come out like they're on a Michael McIntyre show. Yeah, I haven't actually seen that show. I have to be honest, but I can imagine.
It's absolutely nuts.
Okay. Oh, really? All right then, Gordon. Whereabouts are we speaking to you from today?
Yeah, I'm about 50 minutes from the distillery. So I live in Milngavie, the village, last set of traffic lights before you leave Glasgow, heading north. And I used to be a tour guide there, and it was great fun to see people coming in to Glasgow, and that's their first set of traffic lights before they. And I'm like, bye-bye. So yeah, I'm 50 minutes away, and if you leave the car, it's a 2-hour walk.
Oh, nice.
And I know that from bitter experience.
Nice part of the world to live in. So talk to us a little bit about yourself, first time on Pour and Sip, and how you got into the industry and into your current role.
Yes, I've got a good sense of humour. I like going for walks. Oh, sorry, I thought that was. I thought it was another thing. No,
that's fine. You can tell us about that as well. This is one of like dating kind of service.
It's a Thursday night. I'm really looking forward to tonight, and I've been away the last 2 weekends. I'm what's called the experiential ambassador for whiskey across the MacLeod. Not too sure what that means, but it's about bringing stories to the brands. And I started as a tour guide at Glengoyne and just brought a little bit of my background to the worlds of Glengoyne, started writing history of whiskey, performed the Victorian story of Glengoyne at the Edinburgh Festival, and from there got this job to try and bring a bit of colour and a bit of life to some of the whiskey brands that we've got. And I started doing a storytelling tour at Glengoyne once a month, and it started off as a static tour, and now it's a walking tour, not a process tour, because once you've seen one, no disrespect, once you've seen one wash back, don't tell my boss. You've seen a lot. So this is about the 5 Scottish owners that have owned Glengoyne, and I love doing it. And if I've got time, I can throw in a couple of wee stories. It's a great story distillery, so I do that, and I do other ambassadorial stuff around Europe and North America.
Yeah, that sounds great. And when did you get the role of experiential manager? How long have you been doing that for?
Yeah, 2019.
2019. Okay.
And then we did it all online, of course. And I did
what time to go get that job?
Right.
Hey, you get that job, you're going to get to go everywhere.
This is the bottom of my garden, and it became known as the sauna because it's got the wood paneling, a bit seedy. But I did a lot of tastings from Gordon's sauna. For I mean, as you'll know as well, you must have done thousands of them during that time.
We were invented from that time.
And he's the OG host.
OG, yeah. So there's a fair few of these, I have to say.
I very quickly, I remember doing a Burns supper, and they couldn't send haggis to people, but they could send crisps. So I remember having to stab a packet of haggis crisps in full regalia, and I thought, this is going too far. It's time to get out of lockdown.
Nothing quite that dramatic has happened on any of these Pour and Sips as of yet, so there is time. So hopefully it's tonight. I'm in. So talk to us. So you're here talking about Glengoyne, the White Oak, which I actually tried recently, and I have to say, knowing this was in the box, I absolutely loved it. But before we get talking about that, let's just talk about Glengoyne and its history.
Yes, very quickly. You've got the right person. I love it. By the way, I went up to Glengoyne yesterday. People know I'm doing the history of it all. I've got a world exclusive for Pour and Sip here. And a gentleman from the late 1960s, a stillman from 69 to 74 came in, and he just was yesterday. I've not even played it yet. And he brought us a little bag, and he brought us an LP. Look at this. This is the Glengoyne Stillhouse. Some point in the early 1970s, and there's a wee guy with an organ sitting.
So what's the song? What's the album? Who's it by?
I have no idea. I've only got it yesterday. Spirit of Scotland.
Spirit of
a full set of, and I've got the guy's phone number. He's in his late 80s. So again, I'll try and chase him up. So I've got the stories, but that'll be another story. Because it never finishes. The story never finishes. There's great stories all over Scotland, and that's what we've got. We've got heritage. Glengoyne's got a particularly good story. One of my first gigs when I was doing the experiential thing was to go and research, try and find what little archives we have and piece together a story from 1833 legalization through to 2024. You know, that's what we try and did. I'll just summarize it very quickly. 5 Scottish families, 5 independent Scottish families have been custodians from 1833 to the current, to today. And at the storytelling tour, we have a dram for each of the families and what they brought to the story and how they shaped not just the whiskey, but the distillery as well. And literally, my first line is, we think the knowledge of the distillery and the whiskey, this award-winning single malt, literally flowed from the hills, the Campsie Hills above it. It was the crofters, it was the farmers, it was the illicit distillers that really started the story up in the hills. They were smuggling into Glasgow long before Glengoyne became legal in 1833, and it did with a farmer called George Connell, £10. Remember, 10 years after the Excise Act. So you must have been sitting there thinking, nah, this will never catch on. I'll just wait till they go bust and I'll keep doing it illegally. But finally, he got his 10 quid, got a license, 1833. And there's not many that open up in 1830s. I think Dalmore's 1839, Glengoyne 1833. There may be one other. Not many in the 1830s. A few, I think Glenmorangie is 1840, but most of the big ones are in the 1820s. And then George moved on. We've got a second family called the McClellans. I'm still researching them. I don't know much about the McClellans, but the son, the father died in 1867, and I found a picture on the S drive, which was a hard drive that I managed to get from Edrington that owned Glengoyne. And Archibald McClellan, in 1867, after taking over from his father, produced the first pictorial image of Glengoyne. It was called Burnfoot Farm Distillery in those days. And it was a business card by Archibald, who was no doubt going to Glasgow with his business card. And I do a wee silly dance. I've got a little, I just think he's the kind of guy with a feather in his hat, going to Glasgow with the business cards, you know, with his whiskey, doing all the songs and selling his whiskey, along with the people like William Teacher and Tommy Jura and all these entrepreneurs. So he sadly passed away, and then the Lang brothers took over, and I've got that's McLeod's. I had the Lang brothers. Lang's whiskey, of course, the blended whiskey was huge in the west of Scotland and in Scotland, and Glengoyne was there to serve the Lang's whiskey. The Langs held on to for 90 years, 3 generations of the Langs. Amazing family. I've been speaking to some of their descendants as well. Could no longer make money. By 1965, the money was in America. The company that broke America with Cutty Sark was Edrington, or it was Robertson and Baxter's. And Glengoyne gets assumed into Robertson and Baxter's, Edrington, and again, Stuart Lang stayed on to oversee the transition, and Edrington held Glengoyne from 1965, big rebuild in 1966, to 2003, and they passed it on to the Russell family, operating under the name Ian MacLeod. And that's the current story. So 5 Scottish families, 191 years.
Wow. So great story. Your that little shed of yours must be like a little museum.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of archives in here, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, that must be really fun trawling through those. You must see some crazy stuff, and you just like really fascinating stuff.
There really wasn't much of it, so you had to go looking for it, and into all these, you know. I'm still not got. You'll never get the right, you know, definitive history. Always moves. So
yeah.
And I say to people, there's whiskey history in every distillery in Scotland, but you know, this is our version and our story. So.
Well,
go north and go south and find other stories.
Thank you for that. That was really interesting and fun. But what also makes Glengoyne special, the actual whiskey itself, what makes it stand out? It's unhurried, it's take pride in the slow maturation and the
that's right.
This kind of stuff. So talk us through it.
I think the buzz one is a slow distillation. Robbie Hughes is the guy whose name's in the bottle, and Robbie's the group distillery manager of Ian MacLeod. We've got Glengoyne, Tamdhu. We're building in Isla. We've got one in India now. We've got Rosebank. Robbie's in charge of them all, and there's all managers in there. But Robbie took over Glengoyne in 2003, and he was saying it was running at 25% capacity. Slow distillation. The spirit stills are trickling about 5 litres a minute. Once the vapor, the alcohol vaporizes, just turn the heat down, and you just let it. Maximum copper contact and a very slow distillation, and that just makes it a very clean, crisp, almost green apple style new make spirit. And I was saying to Robbie, why? And he was saying, well, I get told with the last guy, you know, you turn the heat up, you get 30, 40, 50% capacity. But this is so uneconomical and so slow. But that is just what's been passed down. And he just carried on in 2003. So really, I think the heart of Glengoyne is that very, very slow distillation in 2 small spirit stills, not 1 big spirit still, where the vapor might go over the line arm and condense, but within 2 small spirit stills, your low wine is kind of vaporizing and forced to touch the sides. And with a low heat and a boiling ring, it will cool and reflux. So a lot of reflux, even the pipes taking the spirit away is copper. So it's maximum copper contact and very slow distillation. That gives that Glengoyne sort of really fruity, forward, estery style, lighter spirit.
And there's also, I mean, you mostly work pretty much like exclusively with sherry, mostly, apart from tonight, what we're drinking tonight.
Have done, yeah. Yes, we have done. I think 2009, the 12-year-olds was born, the modern 12, which has got equal amounts bourbon and sherry cask. It's our biggest seller to date. We still sell more 12-year-old Glengoyne than anything else, and it's got equal measures, first fill bourbon and sherry. And our 15-year-old, a little bit more sherry to bourbon, but bourbon has been a part of the story for, you know, the last 15, 16 years.
Yeah. Only.
Yes. Yes, we've never, you know, there's not been peat in the story. There's no peat around this area, so it's always been air dried, and that's sort of the flavour and the taste of malt. Really, that's and what you can create in the still house. You know, that's where our flavour is born within the 4 walls of the still house.
Okay, and tonight we're drinking the White Oak, which is not the usual kind of Glengoyne.
Yeah, I feel like I have an organ tonight, like dun, dun, dun. It's dramatic. Glengoyne, this is it is a departure for fans of Glengoyne that know it. It's like, what in the dickens is going on? First premiere this just a week before the global launch in Ayr, Robbie's Dram Club. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Third oldest whiskey festival in the UK. Those guys know their Glengoyne, and I was unsure, you know, how this would go down, but my goodness, I texted head office the next day and said, I think you're onto something. This is the response has been pretty good. So first time that we've done entirely, I was about to say almost entirely bourbon cask. For those students of Glengoyne, the most bourbon we've ever done was Legacy Chapter 2, which had 48% first fill bourbon, 17 sherry and the rest refill. This has got, and it was meant to have 100% first fill bourbon. Meant to have. And the blending team that put it together, along with Robbie, just didn't, it just was too one-dimensional, same note. They just didn't quite. And after a lot of experimentation, a discussion was had that we did put some Glengoyne into, for a finish, virgin oak casks. So that get decanted, and they put some of that in there. 10% was too much, 2 or 3% too little, 5% Glengoyne in a virgin oak. So it's been seasoned in bourbon, not been seasoned in sherry. I sometimes at festivals say, go and lick a tree. And that's maybe where you're getting to with virgin oak. It's resinous, it's spicy. You wouldn't really want to drink it as a straight glass.
Yeah.
Not a lot of it. And just 5% in this bourbon. So it's 95 first fill bourbon, 5% virgin oak casks. And that just gives it a little spice. If you got a nose, I think peppery is quite a nice, there's a wee gentle pepperiness here. If it was 100% first fill virgin oak, it'd be both. Your hair would be right. Well, I don't have, but it'd be right up. But there's a pepperiness here. And of course, the bourbon, you will have to say vanilla with bourbon. You will have to say maybe a custardy notes.
I think there's a lot of notes coming in already. I'll just start reading some of those out. David Walcock is saying vanilla custard, as you were saying, Gordon.
Thank you, David.
Orchard fruit crumble on the nose, and Simon Smith saying pears and custards. Real Boing is saying thank you for the stories. I love stories. There you go.
Well, you know what? As a big company we work with in America, and above every in their offices where all the staff sit, it's facts tell, stories sell, and they're one of the biggest spirit retailers in the world. And story sales. So thank you, David.
Yeah, for sure. Mike Pizarro, just smells like white spirit to me. Interesting. Real Boinga, I get glazed fruit, roses, and caramel on the nose. Steve Conway says stories are good, but what makes it great is the passion. There you go, Gordon. Simon, group getting apple and a hint of banana now. It's been sat out for a few minutes.
I think apple's great. Glengoyne's, as I said, green apple, that appley, fresh, fruity flavour is at the heart of the new make spirit.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a non-age statement, but there's loads of flavour in here, I think. Once you just dig a little deeper to it as well. I think bananas is a great shout. I think as I was in Prague last weekend and somebody mentioned, I can't believe they have milky buttons in Prague, but somebody said like milky buttons. And I was, but put some pepper over those buttons. I've never eaten milky buttons with pepper, but that's my job tomorrow, just as a tasting note. So that creamy white chocolate, I think, is there as well.
Absolutely, and there's like a buttery note as well, which is really nice. Keith Gilmore's getting that as well. To the nose, I get buttery, a hint of floral, and then to the palate, pear, creamy, and hint of pepper, a bit of dryness as well. And that's exactly what you're saying, Gordon, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. You've got that classic bourbon style, which is kind of front of palate. You know, we are the sherry. We are Glengoyne has been the sherry house. We know about that, and hopefully we're going to have some wonderful sherries tonight. And that's mouth drying, astringent, warming. If sherry is mouth drying, this is kind of mouth watering. This sits in the middle palate, and I think it's juicy. It's not going to dry your mouth out. It's just a different side to Glengoyne, you know. So for me, it's been wonderful doing it at festivals across Europe and the UK. It's different, you know. It's please try the sherry one, but try this first as you're doing tonight, and it's really nice with a cold beer. Really nice when the sun's shining. It's just that lovely tropical, vibrant, bright, fruity style of whiskey.
I'm gonna have a sip now because I still haven't. This has been my first sip tonight. But also, just tell us a little bit about the reaction to this. You were talking a little bit. The reaction's been mostly positive.
Yep. And I should just say, by the way, 48% and unchill filtered, with 95 first fill bourbon and 5% virgin oak casks in there. But you would think I would say that, wouldn't I? But was it 2 weeks ago in Amsterdam? That was really the first time out in Europe with White Oak, as far as I remember. And we were getting people coming up saying, "Have you got the White Oak? I've heard about it." Or people walking past the stall thinking, "Yeah, seeing Glengoyne," but kind of, and then pausing, little double take, and coming across and saying, "What's that?" It's White Oak. It's quite new. And we had a, group of, because it was a cocktail and rums and tequilas. There's a group of young girls coming past, and they stopped at the stall, had a drink of this, and that was not what they expected whiskey to be like. Actually, it was brighter, it was lighter, and it was just our sort of demographic. Wonderful to see. And it's been, for me, and I have to say, I was unsure when I heard about the project. We have Robbie, who loves Glengoyne in bourbon, John Glass, our master blender, who loves Glengoyne in bourbon. We've got quite a few bourbon barrels in the warehouse, so it kind of made sense to do something different, and that would be what we're going to look at. And maybe I'm a traditionalist, but when this came out and I saw the reaction in air at the festival in April at Robbie's Dram Club, I was very, very heartened, because I know these guys very well and they wouldn't tell me, so it's got lovely flavour, lovely juicy, mouth-watering, tropical pineapple. There you go.
Yeah, someone mentioned in here, I can't remember where it is, like pineapple. There's been a note that's come up. Real Boing is saying a sort of French toast finish. Jess, do you want to read some of these out?
I think toast is lovely. I think the French toast, I thought of toastiness as well. There's a sort of coconutty toasty. It's not all just smooth. There is the key to this is that virgin oak. That is the key to the body you've got, and that sort of warmth coming through.
I would love to have seen like the difference between the 10% worth of virgin oak and then like 3% worth. I would like to, because the great thing about this is, like you're saying, you expect that there would, with the virgin oak added, there'd be this real, almost too spicy note that could possibly be in a bit. It's not at all. It's like so unbelievably balanced that it just adds that right little bit of kick that, just kind of cuts through a little bit of that creaminess just to give it a bit more complexity.
That's right. Just that complexity and different notes in there. So it's not just all that sort of vanilla
Yeah. Which is always nice, and it's really nice. But that, like 100%, that virgin oak is just giving it that little extra dimension.
And I think for what I'm finding as well, and nowadays we've got to talk about it. The elephant in the room is buying for buck. It's money, and it's a good value dram at 48% unchill filtered. So we are moving quite a lot of it. It's been very heartening.
Absolutely. So how much was it? Is it? I remember writing about this when I wrote about this dram. How much does it retail at?
Well, I don't know, but I think roughly the RRP is about 55.
Yeah,
it would be 55, 60. I'm sure there's people in Glengoyne going, no, it's not, but it's round about 55, 60.
It's less. We obviously, by the way, Pour and Sippers, you can get a discount on this bottle should you wish to buy some or one from the Pour and Sip store. Like, it's 100% bang for buck in this one, and it's not. I know it's non-age. A lot of people kind of get a bit funny about that kind of idea.
Yeah, I've got a quick point on that.
Yeah,
speak to the blending team, and they were saying at Glengoyne we do not even assess whiskies from Tamdhu from Glengoyne until they're 6. That's just assessing them. So that's 100 mils bottles going to Broxburn to the head office just to assess them. So we're certainly not 3, 4, 5, 6. Most of this will be 8s, 9s, and 10s, maybe even 11. But I see its averages 9, 10. So nothing really on the cask strength. Tamdhu Glengoynes are 8. Under 8.
Would they ever do this with Tamdhu?
No.
No.
If Sandy McIntyre's watching that, no, actually, Tamdhu, all sherry casks.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Today,
Tamdhu's behind me. 4 million litres made at Tamdhu. 15% goes into the single malt. 15% for the Tamdhu single malt. What happens to the rest? It's traded, it's blended, and also some of it is put into bourbon barrels. It will never see Tamdhu single malt. But it may end up in some of our blends, Tamdhu in a bourbon barrel, or it might end up in some people we move. Chivas works with us, and so with Tamdhu in bourbon is an interesting proposition, but it would never be in a Tamdhu single malt.
Okay, I'd be interested. I
know. I can't say, but there's whiskies out there that's Tamdhu in bourbon. I'm not. I'd have the Tamdhu. Breaking down
be out with pitchforks and all going, get out. Jess, do you want to read out some more of the notes that are coming through about this wonderful whiskey?
Yeah, so it was Mike Pizarro who said it was quite tropical, like a pineapple sour.
Oh.
Which, I mean, if you were going to make a cocktail with this, you could try that.
High balls as well with this is wonderful.
Yeah, I imagine it's summery. We've got David Wilcock, creamy in the mouth with melon, white pepper, and nutmeg.
Creamy.
Angela Richardson, spicy on the nose, and Richard Wingrove, nice combination of delicate fruit and pepperiness. It's funny because, like, it sounds like simple, like I feel like, with any whiskey, you're going to get some form of fruit and some form of spice, but it's really, really lovely here. And it's like,
it
not one like you said.
It's not just marketing, and it's not honor marketing, but it took a while to get this. This did not just let's put it together. It took a while because it didn't work with 100% bourbon, and they tried other things. It just didn't work for them. We've got a very high bar at Glengoyne, so we just it took a while to get these virgin oak casks, and we have not tonight, but there's a very limited release of the 24-year-olds, and believe it or not, we did actually find, I think it's 2. It might even just be 1 cask filled by Edrington virgin oak. So we've got bourbon at 24-year-olds and a virgin oak at 24-year-olds, put it together as a 24. Quite expensive, absolutely delicious, but it's not a million miles from here. And that's available until it sells out. Well, we don't have any more.
We won't be having that one in the Pour and Sip subscription boxes. Unlikely.
Just the 1 gram.
But listen, I say when I'm out there, the price difference is that the flavour difference is it's the same recipe. It's the same.
I absolutely love this, and this is like right up my street nowadays. I can't remember I said this ages ago. I was like, I love like really big sherried whiskies.
Yeah.
I love sherry in general. But sometimes when I'm coming home of an evening and I just want a dram, this is the kind of thing I'm reaching for at the moment. Really creamy, bourbon, pass forward. Just this is the kind of thing I'm going for.
And I think you've done it so well tonight to start with this first. You know, I wasn't too sure of the dram, but this is perfect. You know, and that's great. It's great to have an aperitif. Great to have a whiskey you can drink, as you say, come home. You don't want to be, you know, your mouth to be too dry and it's all spicy. And this is just so drinkable.
Yeah, like I mean, I've got some like, you know, I'm happy to go and drink. I've got some like Edgewood They're just like massive, huge, punch you in the face sherry bomb, and it's great, and I love it. But at the moment, I'd just love to, if I'm coming home and I just want something that's nice and you know, is creamy and those vanilla notes. This is the absolute thing I'm really.
And I think that's where Scotch whisky really scores. You mentioned about having whisky from other parts of the world. I think that's where Scotch whisky stores. The breadth of styles we've got in this country is astounding. From this, you know, even within Glengoyne, you've got two styles, let alone let alone the lowlands and the highlands and Speyside. So we are, and that's, you know, touch wood, as long as you know, we should push that around the world. Come to us for that range of styles.
Yeah. Steve Conn Williams saying it's not a bad price point for a really nice dram. And yeah,
you've got to talk about that nowadays. I think, you know, it's that's what people are.
No, I totally agree. I don't talk too much about pricing and stuff like that, but I've seen, you know, whiskies, you know, that are priced at like £100 and stuff like that for non-age statement whiskey. And it's not like it's a bad thing, but a lot of the time, this seems to be the price point that I would put a dram like this at, and I think it's good, and it's bang for buck, and it's really good, and that's exactly what you pay for, and you get a good quality product.
I don't know how your guys listening, whether they have a thing about chill filtration. Is it bother them? You know, I don't know. For us, I'm not terribly bothered about filtration, but this isn't filtrated, so this is you know.
Yeah. It's all got the good stuff, man. It's just very, very good stuff. Is there anything else coming through, Jess, before we?
We've got Simon saying it feels a bit unfair to drink this on a dark, cold November evening, which I so agree with. It's borderline pina colada, isn't it? Like,
I love that. Yes, let's get on a plane and head south. I can pipe us onto the plane. I've got my album, and I wish I had my vinyl player. I could have finished my tasting with it.
Played it, yeah. That was a great way to go out. You know, sit here and listen to it on your vinyl player. Yeah.
Listen, forget the archive. Let's the highest bidder win tonight. No.
It'll be making bootleg copies for all you pour and sippers that you can buy. Everybody in the pour and sip shop.
That's right. I know, but please come and visit us. Glengoyne is open all year round. We close Christmas Eve lunchtime. I think Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and January 1st and 2nd. But we're basically open the whole year round. Oh. So we'd love to see you all. If who's ever watching tonight, you're more than welcome. Come and try this, and come and try.
Amazing. I like this comment from My Little Corner of Devon. Welcome, My Little Corner of Devon. This might be my new Dartmoor hiking partner. Oh. There you go. So that'd be a nice dram to take with you on a hike. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Gordon, it's been absolutely amazing talking to you. I'm very conscious of time. We've already hit the half-an-hour mark. So thank you so much for presenting, especially with that amazing dram, and great start tonight. And we'll see you at the end.
See you then. Cheers, folks. Thank you. Slanjava.
Cheers, Gordon. Wow, what way to kick off?
I know. Nearly with like a musical number, but that would be a first.
Had a musical number. Nearly had a musical number. We have had a musical number on Pour and Sip before. In our first,
we have.
In our first Christmas special.
Yeah.
Never to be repeated again, but you know.
Anyone gets their hopes up.
Yeah, before anyone gets their hopes up. Yeah, exactly. But that was a great dram to start with, I have to say.
Yeah, that was really lovely. Very interesting.
Yes. Should we drink some more whiskey, everybody? Is everyone giving me the thumbs up? That's
ready giving like a panto energy to me, Andy. You're like, are you ready?
Are you ready? He's right behind me.
Like, yes, I am.
That's what I'm going for.
Yes.
Big panto. We are coming up to Christmas, and I am practicing my role. I will be in panto this year. I won't be. I have done panto before, though, by the way.
Have you?
On drums.
Oh, okay.
No, not
for another time.
Really underneath the stage. So I'm going to invite Andy on screen. We're going to talk all things Jura.
It is Jura time. Hi.
Hello. How are we doing? Yeah, good. How are you?
Not too bad.
Everyone's got such impressive backdrops this evening of like all these whiskies and stuff.
Record player, but no records, unfortunately. Sorry to let you down.
Only we could virtually transfer Gordon's vinyl that he was talking about onto Andy's record player, and then we would genuinely be able to hear that piece of music that would shown us.
That would be nice.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Not going to happen though.
Amazing. Well, where are you coming to us from tonight?
So I'm just in my house in Edinburgh. So a wee bit further away from Jura than I'd perhaps like to be. But I just looked on a map there, and actually from Glengoyne Distillery to Jura Distillery is 136 miles in car, because you've got to go all the way. Or if you wanted to walk there, it would take you 1 day and 18 hours.
You fancy it?
Could do.
You fancy the trek?
Or public transport is interestingly 4 buses, 2 boats, and a lot of walking, and that's an 8-hour and 48-minute journey.
I can't believe Google even have the route there to get from Glengoyne.
Took a while.
By public transport. It's quite impressive, really.
Yeah, it took a while to figure that one out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was going to say it would be wild if you were coming to us from Jura itself. But before we get on to Jura life, it'd be great to hear a bit about you and your role as a single malt specialist, which I feel like that's a fun title to have.
Yeah, it's great. I do feel very lucky, to be honest. I think my journey into sort of the world of advocacy came from the other side of the bar, really. So throughout my university days and things, I was bartending, did a lot of sort of cocktail competitions through bartending. And I went on to manage a wee whiskey bar here in Edinburgh called the Whiskey Rooms for a couple of years. And that was really my sort of introduction to the scale of, malt whiskey, I guess. It was just kind of mind-blowing. I hadn't really thought about it until then. And yeah, ran the Whiskey Rooms for a couple of years. Through some of the cocktail competition stuff, I did a little bit of work with Talisker for a year, which was really cool, as a sort of honorary ambassador. And then in 2017, I was introduced to Drew and Helen Mackenzie Smith, who had just opened Lindores Abbey Distillery. And I started working with them as their first sort of global ambassador, which was amazing. So kind of Lindores is basically in the town where I grew up. So sort of being the first representative of their distillery was amazing. And then the doors were sort of opened at White and Mackay just over 5 years ago. And that was just an opportunity to go from a very young distillery like Lindores to, working with distilleries like Jura, which are, over 200 years old. So just a great opportunity, to be honest. And here I am. Amazing.
I feel like it's so, like, if you have to bet that an ambassador comes from anywhere, it's going to be bartending. And I feel like it's just such a natural, like, way from talking about whiskey, like, in a casual way, to making it your job. Yeah, I just feel like I was in the right place at the right time, to be honest. And like even just hearing from Gordon there, it was interesting because he was talking about doing his show during the Edinburgh Festival, and I was at that, and it was amazing. And like, that was just a totally different side of advocacy, watching Gordon's like
He's
theatrical.
giving you a thumbs up right now.
Great. I think I have to be honest and apologise, because that was the first time we'd met, and I sent a message on Facebook to the wrong Gordon to say, great to meet you, thanks very much, because obviously their other ambassador is also a Gordon. So I think I thanked the wrong Gordon. I've been too embarrassed to admit it since, but yeah. The other Gordon was like, you're so welcome. He was just like, who is this guy? Oh, that's so funny. But yeah, so I was just, really into whiskey. Loved working at Lindores, and I was actually at an event through in Glasgow, and I was asked if, be interested in doing some work with Fettercairn first and foremost. And I haven't tried Fettercairn in ages, so I walked along to the bar, the Ben Nevis in Glasgow, and I tried a wee Fettercairn 12-year-old, and it actually reminded me of some of the Glengoynes that I'd been drinking at the time, and I absolutely loved it. So I was just, right place, right time, and everything kind of just panned out really nicely. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So you mentioned going to a distillery with so much history. Yeah. For those who don't know Jura, how would you describe it, like in a nutshell, before we get into any sort of specific whiskies? I think it's a surprising style of spirit. I think so. Just to set the scene, Jura is a very small island off the west coast of Scotland. In fact, from sort of the mainland, it's only about 50 miles. From the west coast of the mainland over to Jura, and it sits right in between the sort of the top of the Campbelltown Peninsula and the Isle of Islay, right in the middle. And it's an island which is about 120 square miles in size, part of the Inner Hebridean Islands, but it's home to only 230 people. So quite a large island, I guess, but with a very small community living there.
And Jura Distillery has been a big part of the island life since it was built in 1810. And if you imagine a sort of small island distillery sitting next to Islay, you're probably thinking big, peaty, smoky, medicinal styles of whiskey. But actually what we have today and what we produce at Jura, certainly what we produce on Jura since the 1960s, is predominantly very fruit driven. So stone fruits, so really fresh or light style of spirit. And yeah, I think that's very surprising. But, you know, Jura has its own personality, and I think the whiskey kind of embodies that in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah. Was there anything, you know, obviously you mentioned like being an island, you would expect it to use peat, but do you think that was the reason that Jura is made the way it is?
I think so, actually. I think the history of Jura sort of tells a bit of that story, because it was founded way back in 1810, so really old, a really long time ago. And I think the spirit that they would have produced back then would have been very similar to Islay, because again, you know, there's an abundance of peat on the...
Have I frozen or has Andy frozen?
Have I frozen?
No, sorry. Has Andy, our guest, frozen? I assume.
He has.
No, he's gone.
No, he's gone. He's gone.
No.
This wouldn't have happened just
Got
by
the wrong Andy.
Oh, he's back. He's back. He's back. I can see it. Oh, I just pressed something wrong there.
When did you lose me?
We jinxed
20
this
minutes ago,
happen,
mate.
didn't we?
You've been speaking to yourself.
Classic.
Yes.
I knew this would happen. Classic. Okay,
we
we're plugged
were-
in. I think we're all good.
Yeah, we were. Where were we? It was kind of like.
They did make smoky whiskey on Jura.
Okay, yeah, okay. So the distillery's been there for a long time, since 1810, but it actually closed in 1901. There was a big falling out between the two families who were running the distillery. The Fergusons from the mainland of Scotland, who'd invested a lot of new money, a lot of equipment in the distillery. They had fallen out with Archibald Campbell, who'd founded the distillery, because he was trying to raise the rates on the building. So when the Fergusons left, they just took all of their equipment out of the distillery and basically left Archibald Campbell with the empty shell of a distillery, which is not very good. And after 19 years, what Archibald Campbell decided to do was take the roof off of the distillery, because if you don't have a roof on your building in Scotland, you don't have to pay your rates. So if you want to save yourself some money, that's what to do. But of course, it gets battered by the wind and the rain, and the distillery fell into complete disrepair. So, you know, terrible no whiskey being made on Jura, but also the population of a lot of the islands were in steady, decline. So the population of Jura was really nosediving, and it was important that the distillery was brought back to life. And luckily, after a closure of just over 60 years, the distillery was reopened in 1963. And part of that reopening was, making the decision, what style of whiskey should we make now? Should we continue the tradition of making smoky whiskey, or should we do something else? And what they decided to do was make a very light, very approachable style of spirit. One of the key people involved in that was William Delmy Evans, quite a famous distillery architect, but also the McKinley family, Charles McKinley, famous blender. So of course, blended whiskey reliant on very light styles of spirit. That was one of the reasons that Jura was designed the way it was, with very big spirit stills and giving us this nice, light, clean, sort of stone fruit driven spirit. And that's really what we have in our glass today, I guess.
Amazing. So it's been like, I guess, it's been like, can't do the maths, like 100 years since it was reopened.
Well, so it reopened in 1963. So we celebrated the 60th birthday last year on the island, which was great. We had a big party to celebrate 60 years. So yeah, 61 years old in 2024.
Yeah, not near 100, but we'll move past that.
Yeah, move on.
It's like quick maths didn't work. Do you think that the style has changed like within those 60 years?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I do. The style of spirit that we have on Jura is really sort of born on the island, and there've been a number of different distillers over the years. Some of the guys there have been distillers at Jura Distillery for over 40 years. So they've got an incredible understanding of what the distillery should smell like when they're making spirit. But the other thing is that, over the last 10, 20 years, for sort of 1 week a year, or, every few years, we would do like 1 or 2 weeks of peated spirit through the stills, just to sort of continue that tradition of what used to happen. So now in the warehouses at Jura, you've got an abundance of various cask types, and our whiskey makers can call on some of those different casks just to sort of dial up different components of flavour. So we don't make a peated whiskey necessarily, but we use small elements of things just to dial up little notes of spice or aromatic qualities, or even soft coastal notes that we find in the unpeated Jura as well. So
like seasoning.
Very versatile. Exactly, like seasoning, like salt and pepper on your food, 100%.
That's really interesting. So with this 16-year-old, which is quite a well-aged, I feel like non-age statements are really common now, and this is quite a hefty age statement. But it was sort of, I was looking into this whiskey, and it was sort of more about distillery character. But I guess we were just talking about what the distillery character is and how it's like evolved. So why sort of did this one come about?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think you're right. And one of the things we're really proud of at Jura is some of our sort of cask editions and things like the rum cask edition, the pale ale cask edition, red wine. We've done a lot of these non-age statement whiskies, and the idea was to try and bring as many new people into the world of whiskey and single malt whiskey as we could, and that has been so successful. And I think now, just building on that, we're looking at releasing whiskies that really will keep people on their Jura journey, but also actually, I think a little bit of the job that this whiskey does is actually just give people a fresh perspective of Jura and remind people of just how good the spirit is, because there's been so many amazing historical releases, and part of the inspiration for this one was actually looking at a bygone bottling of Jura that whiskey enthusiasts loved, that people on the island loved, that the distillery team loved, and that was the Jura's own 16 years old. So although this is a brand new whiskey, brand new recipe, we were in part inspired by that older bottling, which was a really cool canvas to work from. And then again, the idea from our whiskey maker, Joe Ricketts, who is really, this has been his passion project, was to sort of celebrate the distillery character that's produced on the island today. And the way that we would discuss or describe our new make spirit at Jura is typically sort of three things. Predominantly it's fruity, so stone fruit, apricots and peaches, and then it's sort of supported by aromatic qualities, and then the soft coastal note that we find within the spirit. So really it was just about choosing and bringing together cask types that sort of highlighted some of those core characteristics, some of that really unique complex island spirit. So we've used sort of combination of bourbon barrels, and then we started to introduce very small amounts of sherry casks just at the end, just partially. So really simple but complex recipe. Some of these sherry casks have been part of this recipe for like 4 years, so a long time, but a very small part of the recipe. So there's quite a lot going on, but hopefully you enjoy the results.
Yeah, because I was going to say, you sort of don't usually see the words like distillery character and then like sherry casks together super often. I think people often think that it's like one or the other. So I guess there must be something in the Jura spirit that like can stand up to them.
So again, the core things we're looking at are fruity, aromatic and coastal, and the sherry casks just take the fruit notes like the apricots and the peaches and just introduce a sort of dried fruit quality, which is really nice right at the end. And then there's this little like preserved lemon note in the whiskey, and I don't really know where that's coming from. We're doing loads and loads of work to figure out why we get a slight salinity in the spirit at Jura, because it's there before it even touches a cask. So we're trying to learn sort of and proof point where these flavors come from. But I guess it's just part of the mystery, but it's also part of the process of just when the barley arrives to the moment it leaves, something magical happens. And I guess a lot of that's also down to the intuition of the distillers and the fact that they've been there for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And they just have it ingrained in their daily routine, which is really interesting.
Yeah. I sort of would like, it's like, like a magician's secret. Like, I don't want to know why the lemon's in there. It's like part of the magic.
Absolutely. And that's just from me, everyone might have their own opinions of it. So interested to see what people think.
Yeah. And speaking of, Andy, do we have some notes?
Yes. I just need to go back.
Is there too many?
No. I just need to go back. I've forgotten where this has started. Simon Smith was saying, just get back to it. Is that the turntable we need in the background? Steve Conn Williams, pineapple, dark caramel, dark chocolate on the nose, really surprised by this. I think Jura and assume smoke. That's exactly the opposite of what we're saying. So Simon Smith, caramel fudge on the nose. Alex Battersby is saying agree on the Parma Violets note. Real Boinger, fruit drops, light sweetness on the nose, caramel, peaches, a dash of cayenne pepper, and vanilla taste, and a fruity caramel finish. Simon Smith saying yes, fruit drops. Mike Pizarro, toffee and dark chocolate, love Jura. Very different to the other Jura we were drinking earlier too. You were, I wasn't. Steve Coleman Williams, anyone remember the boiled sweets in the 24-hour wrap packs the army issued? Getting strong hints of the purple ones. Never sure what flavours they were.
Purple flavours going on here.
Did you get the 24-hour wrap packs the army issued, Jess? I didn't know what it meant. That's a new one for me. Question, Paul. This has a 01 in the name. Is a series planned?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a limited edition whiskey. This is Perspective No.1, and the plan is that, you know, sort of annually, I believe is the plan, that we will have a sort of series of limited edition whiskies, but they're all gonna be sort of celebrating those core characteristics of our house style, that fruity and balanced nature of our spirit. So anything that's going to dial up those nice fruity qualities or the nice aromatics or the coastal elements. So that's sort of inspiration for the series. And another cool thing about the label is actually they're all completely different. So I don't know how we've managed to do this, but this pattern is sort of like, it just shifts for every single bottle. So
that's really cool.
No two are exactly the same.
Full size, because obviously we have these little ones which won't have that.
Yeah,
they should have done it for some minis as well.
I would love that.
That's pretty cool. Was there a special designer for that?
Yeah, but I don't know who they were, so I'm not gonna can't comment on that one. But it is beautiful. It looks great, and I think this is a whiskey that, you know, whiskey lovers have been crying out for a long time from Jura. So, but completely unpeated. Yeah. So again, as I say, quite surprising, I think, for a lot of people who maybe have an idea of what they would imagine Jura to taste like.
And really 46.5%.
Yeah, that's right. And just you know, I guess ABV is a great vehicle for flavour and texture, which is maybe something we haven't sort of talked about too much. But this does have a lovely creamy, you know, mouth coating, sort of creamy coconut note. There's a lovely sort of almond quality here as well, which I really like, which I think is kind of coming from some of those little sherry casks we've used. So yeah. It's just really nice little drop.
I think if the Glengoyne was like a more of a breakfast whiskey with like French toast, this is definitely this is good for like a cold evening, like tonight. It feels appropriate.
Absolutely. It's actually quite evocative of being on the island as well at times. You know, you do get these nice, you know, on a nice warm evening when you're sort of walking along the road, you got the sort of sea on one side, the rolling hills on the other. It's quite a fresh sort of, there is a sort of floral character going on in the whiskey as well, which is really nice.
Do you have to make the pilgrimage to... Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, ironically, probably get a better Wi-Fi signal on the Isle of Jura than I do here. So,
although I believe they didn't used to have internet until like relatively recently.
Yeah, I think electricity first made its way over to Jura in the 1970s. So,
my gosh. Yeah, Jura looks really good. There's the really fun fact, isn't there, that there's like 300 times. No, like 30 times the amount of deer than there are people, or some crazy fact.
Yeah, I think like there's between 5,000 and 6,000 red deer at any one time on the island, and you often see them before you see the people. So as you arrive on the Isle of Jura, there's only one road, and it takes you down the south coast and up to a small village called Craighouse. And in Craighouse, there's the sort of one hotel, one pub, one shop, and that's where our whiskey distillery is as well. But on that road, you often, if you look up to your left out of the car, you often see the deer just poking their heads up through the long grass. So that's obviously where Jura got its name from. Jura means Deer Island in Old Norse, which is
of
nice.
The 200 people who live there, what percentage do you say work at least for the distillery or for Jura itself, or doing something involved in the whiskey production for Jura?
Yeah, I guess you know, there's about 230 people or so living on the Isle of Jura, and you know, I think there's a distillery team of around 12 at the moment. In the summer, when we have most visitors, you've got 5 or 6 in the visitor centre as well. But you know, indirectly, we work with so many different people on the island, which is great. So if you go onto our website, most of the photography there is done by the Jura photographer Conrad. We often call Alex for bus tours of the island. We work with a gentleman called Grant who takes us hill walking, safely hill walking up the paps of Jura. So there's loads of people on the island who we work with indirectly, which is also really cool.
Wow.
I'm not sure if it's just me, but my video in the background is frozen. No. I'm still here. Cool.
Oh, yeah.
You're still there.
Still here.
Live and kicking. Great.
Steve
But yeah,
has asked, does the unique design on the bottle extend to the sleeve?
no. Just the label on the bottle. Yeah.
Just the label on the bottle.
A different
He said
sleeve.
He said, no, not going to buy it now. It needed to be on the sleeve as well.
Damn it.
Although actually, what he did say was that he thought the Glengoyne was going to win hands down, but it's definitely not hands down because this is in the running as a favourite. So
yeah,
time will tell.
They've both been delicious, to be honest. I really enjoyed that Glengoyne, and
Really
the sort of subtle differences as well, a little bit. You know, they're both sort of similar light styles, just wee nuanced differences there as well, which is nice to compare.
Yeah. How long was this? Did you say how long this was finished in the Oloroso cask as well?
Yeah, so it's a partial finish. So when the initial ex-bourbon barrels sort of reached their mid-teens, we started to introduce some of these seasoned Oloroso sherry casks, and some of them lay for up to 4 years, some around 2 years, and some sort of in between. So it's a real balancing act, really, for our whiskey makers. And like I say, this is a product by Joe Ricketts, our blender for this recipe, and I just think he's done a great job. It's a subtle introduction of sherry casks, not to overpower the beauty of the spirit that comes from the stills over on the island, just to sort of emphasize and highlight some of those core characteristics of the distillery DNA, particularly those fruity qualities in the spirit, that nice dried apricot, dried peach.
It is, but I really like on the nose that little salty note, really subtle salty note, really nice.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people commented on that when we launched this. This is a very new whiskey, and a lot of people were saying that, and it's quite amazing because we speak about it all the time, but sometimes we think, well, maybe we just convince ourselves. No. But it's great to hear other people noticing that as well, because it's something that's very hallmark of Jura, which is really interesting.
Yeah, that's really lovely. It's like it's a dark whiskey. Like, you know, it feels like if I tasted it and then assumed it would look like it'd be much darker than it is. But I don't know why.
I think we get it's easy to just talk about the casks a lot of the time. And when you read sort of American oak and sherry casks, you sort of got a rough idea of what to expect. But I mean, there's so many different things you can do within that sort of spectrum of flavour. So yeah, delighted with this one.
Yeah. I don't suppose there's any hints as to what number 2 might hold.
Not yet. Definitely some interesting things sort of maturing away. And yeah, all I can say is that it's definitely going to be focused on those 3 core characteristics of our distillery DNA. But watch this space, because there's lots of other amazing things coming from Jura Distillery in the next few years as well.
Very exciting. Wow. Conscious of time, it just flies by.
It does. We're already an hour in.
I know. I'm like, well, if you can't tell me what's coming, then no. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you for presenting. That was a really lovely whiskey as well. We had 2 crackers so far tonight, and we'll
pleasure.
See you again. Cheers, mate.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Wow, flying through.
Glendronach has big boots to fill.
Big boots.
But I think we'll be okay.
I think we'll be okay. I think these guys can do it. I really do. So I think we might as well invite Kirsten onto the screen.
Yeah, keep it rolling.
Keep it rolling. How are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm good, thank you. Hi, pouring sippers.
Hi.
How are you doing?
We're very well, thank you. Very well, thank you. Whereabouts are we speaking to you from tonight?
I'm coming from Glasgow, so I live in Glasgow. Actually, it's interesting how small an industry it is. I was just visiting Glengoyne a couple of weeks ago, so it was really interesting to hear Gordon speak about that, and I got to visit the little farm that's quite close by. I don't know, have you guys been to Glengoyne before?
I haven't.
It's really cute. It's got this little farm close by, and Yeah, still got its really beautiful like copper pipework in the distillery, which was something that really struck me. We also have Glenglassaugh in our portfolio as well, and I don't know if you guys know the story, but in I think it was the 90s or the noughties, somebody snuck in and managed to steal all the beautiful copper pipework from Glenglassaugh distillery. So I was in Glengoyne and quite jealous about theirs. Where are you guys coming from?
We're both London.
Yeah, I believe we're both in London, but possibly like opposite ends. So you might as well be in Scotland, to be Andy, to be honest.
Yeah, literally. So you're south, aren't you? Like southeast. Yeah. So to me, I'm West London. So for me, that's literally like, if someone said
how far a drive is that? Like, put that into context.
Well,
like,
you could
where
drive
did you get in Scotland for that
Jura.
time?
If you could drive it like normal, it would be like 20 minutes.
20 minutes, yeah.
If you have to use London transport, it'll be like 2 hours.
You might as well go from Glengoyne to Jura. It's literally the same kind of route. Google has
on public transport for 8 hours and 46 minutes.
Yeah, something along those lines. I know if I see.
I'm going to hold on to that fact forever now, and it's going to be one of those like really dumbass facts. Like people are like,
one day,
tell us something interesting.
So one day in a pub quiz, you're going to absolutely save the day.
One day in a pub quiz, someone's going to ask that, and you're going to be like, "Yes, I know that question. It would take exactly this amount of time." But anyway, talk to us a little bit about yourself, Kirsten. How you got into the industry and how you find yourself in your current role.
So I work as assistant blender. I'm assistant to Rachel Barry, and we work with the Glendronach, the Benriach, and the Glenglassaugh. I've been working as a blender now for 3 years, and it's been an absolute privilege as my first blending job, getting to work with these really 3 distinctive distilleries and flavor profiles and stories has been incredible and such an amazing learning experience. I started off in the industry maybe like 7 years ago. I went to the University of Edinburgh and I studied psychology and sociology and worked in bars while I was doing that, and was really enamored with cocktail composition, flavor composition, and just the kind of romance that surrounds a lot of the storytelling of the whiskey brands, the whiskey ambassadors that would come in and do training with us. It always really struck me like how incredible and exciting and historical each of these brands were, in a way that I didn't always find with like other spirit types. And I thought I would maybe study at the brewing and distilling master's degree, and to pad my application out, I sent some letters out to local distilleries asking for a little bit of work experience. A couple of them came back to me, and as they say, the rest is history. So once I got my foot in the door, I just kind of said yes to every opportunity and just kept working up. So worked as like an unpaid bottling line assistant up to a distiller, assistant distiller, and then lead distiller across 2 of the lowland distilleries. And did you actually say that you've got a Bonnington whiskey in the lineup?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I used to work for Bonnington.
Oh, amazing. Well, you can tell us more about that then.
Why don't you present that?
Just staying on the line.
Yeah. So this is actually my first advocacy job or advocacy opportunity with the Glendronach. So let's go slow. We'll go with the Glendronach to begin with, and then we'll see how it if I can do 2 in one night.
On the first one, we're going to go all in. We've also got some Benriach here, so if you could do that as well.
Cool.
Well, no, that's awesome. And but talk to us a little bit. I see you've got the bottle there. Talk to us a little bit about that rebrand. What has the general consensus been on that for you guys?
Yeah, so I saw the other 2. There is big boots to fill. They had amazing backgrounds. I've tried to make mine a little bit more exciting and cute. And all you really need is the new Glendronach 12 rebrand. Am I right? So all the new packaging is really quite similar to what the old packaging was. We're using really similar colors, which really speak to Glendronach and its rich heritage and history. You'll just see there's ever so slight differences in the shape. It's a little bit more smooth and fluid, and there's a little bit more like just some more gold detailing on the labels. I personally love it. I think it's just like a slight freshening up on while still being true to what the labeling and the branding was before.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I really like it. It's much more modern. I did love the old school labeling. I've got to be honest, I did love it. I thought there was something really kind of traditional about it, but I understand if it makes sense, and it's like it's more minimal, but it's still got that colour. The 12 is the same colour. Is the 15 the same colour and stuff? The green label.
Yeah. They're still like very similar colours.
Yeah.
To what they were before. Sorry, my cat is in my room and he is trying to get up on the chair. So if he makes an
Come on, let's
appearance, I
see.
do apologise.
He's
Walked away now. But his name, do you know what's funny actually? I got him like 2.5 years ago and he was already 1.5, and his name is Sassy. And that is the type of barley strain that we use in the Glendronach. Oh, there he is.
There you go. It was meant to be. Hello, mate. You coming in?
No.
No?
Yes, I think it might be.
Just knock the bottle straight over, smash.
Literally, that actually already happened earlier when Gordon was on. I accidentally knocked it over. So it's been chaos back here, guys. Backstage has been chaos.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit about Glendronach. A little bit of a history for those who aren't aware of the distillery.
Sure. So Glendronach is a Highland distillery. It's situated in Aberdeenshire. It's quite, maybe the closest town to it would be Huntly. And it's situated in a valley. So it's a beautiful drive. You like drive down into the valley, and the trees slowly reveal the Glendronach distillery. And Glendronach actually means Valley of the Brambles. I have weirdly, serendipitously found some brambles in my fridge to go along with our tasting.
We've had a lot of crotches tonight, and I'm big into it. I've got to be honest. We've got brambles prepared. Have you got anything else? So this will be part of it.
Do you know, I actually got a tiny wee sherry glass as well, just because obviously we are so sherry forward with our Glendronach, and Rachel has been experimenting recently with trying the whiskey in different glasses styles. She's been raving about having it in like quite a big wine glass and how much more space that allows for the congeners and the aromas to like rise up out of the glass. So I was like, in that spirit, I'll bring as assistant blender, mine is this size, and as master blender, hers is this size. Anyway, sorry, where was I? The Glendronach started in 1826. It was opened by James Allardyce, and it's situated on the Boynes Mill estate. And the name of the Boynes Mill estate kind of tells you what it used to be. In 1771, it started out as a mill. Obviously, there's water in the surrounding areas, there's barley in the surrounding areas, and those two ingredients are fantastic, not only for milling, but also for whiskey. So in 1826, it starts up, and the distillery actually survives through the Patterson crash, and up to the 1960s, it maintained a lot of the same equipment. The 1960s, it was bought over by William Teachers and Sons, and the stills doubled from 2 to 4. So that was one of the first like process improvements or changes that the distillery undertook. So that was over 100 years, basically maintaining like the same equipment and the same styles. It was then continued producing. It was mothballed from 1996 to 2002. So there's a wee gap in the inventory there. And in 2002, it reopens, and then in 2005, it converts from coal to direct firing, from coal direct firing to steam heating. And it was actually one of the last distilleries to make that change. So I'm afraid my history storytelling isn't nearly as in-depth or as incredible as the other two have been, but ask me any questions on blending.
Yeah, well, that's the same. So a current day for you, what does it look like?
Good question, actually. I was actually reflecting on this recently, because I think coming from production background and working and learning everything pretty much through production, it's such a great learning environment, because every day you come in and you do a really similar thing. There's such a similar setup. You come in, you get the boiler on, you start heating up the water, the mash goes in, the fermentation occurs, and then you get your stills on and everything's running. And it's such like the repetition creates such a great learning environment. When I first started blending, every day is different, and the responsibilities, you kind of have to be able to quickly change from one thing to the other, which was an amazing challenge, actually, something that I really, really enjoy. So what does a typical day look like? I come in the morning, we try to do our sensor in the morning, not encouraging people to drink irresponsibly, but drink your whiskey in the morning, because that's probably the time that you are at least affected. If you... So
there you go, everybody. We're going to now be conducting Pour and Sip at 9 a.m. So we'll see you next Thursday at 9 a.m. Everybody, sharp. That's where will be least effective. No, I'm joking. Come on, carry on.
I feel like the pouring sippers would be there.
They would. I think Steve, Coleman Williams, Real Boinger, would you be there at 9 a.m. for us? Guys, we'll find out. We'll ask them.
Yeah. I think it's the brand, it's the brand ambassadors and stuff who have all been out the night before advocacy opportunities that you would have a hard time roping in. If you've had a coffee, I've personally find that if I've had a coffee, I have to wait at least like 2 hours, and that can change a little bit until the bitterness on your tongue can really affect, and the coffee can really affect your ability to like sense and smell and taste the whiskey in front of you. So do a little bit of sensory. We do some tasting notes. We do quite a lot of new make analysis. We do sensory training as well, which is where we ensure that our senses are, and our sense of taste and smell is able to identify off notes and particular notes to make sure that like our instruments are sharp, basically. And then there's quite a lot of like inventory art. Obviously, there's tens of thousands of casks that all need all of their characteristics, all of their ABVs, everything monitored and taken care of. So there's quite a lot of work from a data perspective as well, which is, as somebody who comes from sociology, which is often like looking at trends and working with data, that is really my wheelhouse. And then we work a lot with like teams across the business. We work with our quality teams, we work with our vatting team, the brand team. It's a lot of fun because you're getting to chat to a lot of people and work with people across the business. And then in the evening, we have wonderful opportunities like the Pour and Sip November 2024 live tasting.
That will get you nowhere.
That sounds like a great day. That's a great working week, I have to say. That sounds absolutely amazing. So dealing with all this stuff, and you're talking about, you're trying a lot of new make stuff. What is the house style of Glendronach?
Sure. So the house style of Glendronach is it's really interesting. It takes some quite soft water. So our other 2 distilleries, the Benriach and the Glenglassaugh, has quite hard water, meaning that it has quite high mineral content, higher calcium and magnesium content. The Glendronach has softer water. So that's then what we use through our mash. This then goes into our fermentation, and then it goes into our saxophone-shaped stills, which have a slight decline on the line arm. So you're getting some really interesting reflux patterns and movements, and that declining line arm is giving you robust and really heavy flavor characteristics. We're then obviously putting at that point, we're coming out with our new make, and there's a lot of, for me, whether it's bias, which plays a huge part in our sensory analysis generally as humans. I taste a lot of brambles. I get a lot of brambles. Every distillation that comes off the still is analysed by Rachel and myself, and I get quite a lot of bramble notes. It's very deep. It's very robust. There's some like really interesting fun notes in there, which then goes into our sherry casks, our PX and our Oloroso, primarily for that little sherry lift. That is really the Glendronach house style.
Yeah, and we've been talking a lot about sherry tonight, so mostly the Glendronach is working with sherry casks.
Yeah, so the Glendronach it's primarily placed into our PX and our sherry. PX and our Oloroso, sorry.
Okay, and the one we're drinking tonight, the 12-year-old, this is much more on the basis. So we've tried 2 drams now. Obviously, the first one was totally bourbon. Then we spoke about sherry with the Jura. This one is much more of a sherry bomb. There's like much more of these as well. I'm just getting some savoury notes in there, which are really amazing. Talk to us about this one in particular.
So our Glendronach 12 is our flagship Glendronach. It's introducing you to what the house style is at its core. So we have both the PX and the Oloroso in our 12. We also have the PX and Oloroso in our 15. And then when you get to the 18-year-old, it's pure Oloroso. So the Glendronach, if we pull that 12, if we pull that apart a little bit, the PX is going to be giving you that like chocolate note, the really sweet kind of gooey fruitcake note that you get from the Glendronach. If we're adding in some of the Oloroso, that's the drier, nuttier. I get some hazelnut, a little bit of walnut as well. There's huge notes of ginger that comes from both the PX and the Oloroso. And then that's all harmonized and brought together by the Spanish oak that's placed in, which is a little bit more porous. It provides more spicy and robust flavors, which adds really nicely to the kind of the house style, the robust new make house style. So yeah, shall we try a little bit?
Yeah, I've been nosing this for a while now.
I can see you nosing it and I'm getting jealous. So I'm going to top my glass up.
So all those notes, definitely with the gingerbread and the hazelnut as well. There's, for me, a real savoury element to it as well.
Sure.
And I don't know. People are going to hate. You're going to hate this note, but I get. It's like almost like twiglets in there, and it's going to sound mental, but there's like this kind of really like weird kind of beefy note in there.
It's like on the side of my tongue. I don't know if you have the same thing, Andy. Oh no, you haven't tried it yet.
No, I'm hitting on the nose, and there's this like kind of marmitey kind of note. That's again, I've had this in sherry cask whiskey before, but it's there for me. But then it's mixed in with the hazelnut and the kind of dried fruit note as well, which is really good. I haven't tried this yet, and I can see, Jess, you're well ahead of me. Can you read some notes out for us while I try it? I have tried this before, but please read some notes out.
So people are echoing this like savory note. We have, it's Mike Pizarro says it's like tiramisu, which yum.
Coffee, totally.
Yeah, I think maybe. So side note, I was dealing with coffee the other day and I got it on my hands, and then my hands like smell like soy sauce. So I feel like maybe that's like, sorry, this is like, but this is relevant.
It's relevant, goddammit.
It's relevant because like, whoever's giving the coffee is also maybe giving this like savory note, and I don't know what it is. It's like fermentation or something. I don't know.
So there's definitely a funky note. There's a fun and funky note, and it comes from, you know, you've got soft water with interestingly shaped stills, a declining line arm, ever so slightly declining line arm, and then sitting in really full-bodied sherry. So it's there's a lot of really kind of interesting flavor parts going on there with Glendronach. It's a big taste for sure. It's a big taste when it comes off the stills, and it continues being a really big taste. It's not, you know, we would describe Benriach as perhaps being more delicate, a little bit more apples and pears, and Glendronach is robust for sure. I mean, I think you could drink this alongside a coffee, which is quite full flavored and quite bitter, and the Glendronach would probably stand up to it quite well. So that tiramisu note was really quite on the money.
Like a Glendronach espresso martini.
Oh,
maybe too far.
Oh yeah, and you know what? The second somebody orders one Glendronach espresso martini, the whole bar is ordering espresso martini, and the bartender even hates you.
One day. Sorry, I diverted from my notes. I overshared actually. Anyway.
No, it was relevant. It was relevant, as you say.
Thank you. I feel validated.
We were persuaded.
I was this close from the cool story, bro. That was that close. Come on. Anyway, where were we, guys? Come on.
Peter Gilmore with rich and creamy with a burnt match smell, which I wonder where that's coming from.
Yeah, it's probably as well that like kind of savoury kind of note as well in there.
Yeah, definitely.
Note.
Everyone's palate will probably compute it ever so slightly differently. Like, how many of us, you know, you've probably never tasted a burnt match before. Some people will think they're more familiar with that flavor than other people. It probably wouldn't even cross their mind. So yeah, that funky note, it definitely manifests as burnt match.
We've got another one from Simon Smith saying burnt fresh cream on the nose. Angela,
what's a burnt?
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that funny? I've also a lot of like buttery and creamy notes. Mike Pizarro tastes completely different to how it smells, quite toffee apple. Steve Coleman Williams is having my my sort of moment saying there's coffee in this, but something really earthy. I can't put my finger on it. Someone help me. I think we've delivered on that. Again, real Boinga, I get smokiness, baked apples with raisins, and this is weird, very strangely, a drop of melted cheese.
Oh.
It's like, it's taking a twiglet and raising it, Andy.
Yeah.
Or maybe dipping it.
Yeah. Now you're talking.
Probably. Yeah, it definitely has some of those, the creamy can obviously be interpreted as cheesy. They're very, very close to each other. I think a lot of it is really complemented by, like, I get quite a lot of the cinnamon and the nutmeg and the ginger and the spice. So there's, when you put the Glendronach 12 on a traditional spider diagram flavor map, it's very interesting to see how many flavor spikes it has.
Yeah.
And I think the pour and sippers are picking up on it.
Yeah, we actually had a question for you as well. It was Steve Coleman Williams asking, what's left for you to get to master level in your role, or is it just time?
That's a really good question. So there is a little bit of a standard career path with working up to master blender. It traditionally is 15 years working in various assistant and blending roles. I'm quite privileged because Rachel and I we work one-on-one, so I get a lot of like one-on-one tutelage from her, which is amazing. Such a learning experience. So yeah, that's we've had a conversation about this, and that's probably the right timeline to make sure that you're getting experience in all areas of the industry. As a blender, you are often working across lots of departments. You're doing quite a lot of the technical work. You're probably doing a lot of the sensory work. You're doing a lot of the advocacy work. So, that takes time to really get to hone and to get good at those skills. Hopefully, I'll have a few more Glendronach tastings under my belt over the next few years. You guys will be my first, so thank you.
It's going well.
Thank you. So yeah, traditionally it's maybe 15 years. Some people make it before that, some people make it after, and it also depends how large the portfolio you're working with, and it depends how complex it is, and there's all sorts of factors that play into it.
I haven't really heard anyone talk about this before, but what you were saying about how obviously you have like your tasting sessions, but alongside that, I think basically, when you hear about people becoming blenders and like nosers and stuff, you kind of imagine that it's something that people are like born with, and it's just this like you just have it or you don't. But like from what it sounds like, you do like training alongside the actual tastings that you do as well.
Yes.
I'd love to hear about that.
So my understanding is that you require a base level of sensitivity, and there will be some people who just naturally biologically are not sensitive to certain flavor compounds. So that would be very hard to train that in if you literally don't have the inbuilt ability within your olfactory system. If you do have that baseline ability, you can absolutely hone your skills, because there's a couple of things going on when you're learning to identify flavor compounds. And one is obviously like the actual system, the actual, sniffing the flavor compound, it going up into your nasal cavity, and then your brain identifying the compound. That's one part. And then there's the language that's associated with that. So I found, especially when I first started being a blender, I would often sniff things and be like, oh, that really smells like that thing. What is it again? And you're like, oh, what? I think one of you actually read, someone was like, oh, help me out with this earthy thing. It's like, that's training. That's the training, is really like honing in on what it is you're smelling. And then understanding as well how other people will perhaps perceive that as well, because the other thing is that people are perceiving it in different ways. And so this was interesting. When I first started working, I love like really like funky saline forward whiskies, and Rachel would get me sometimes to like mock up a pilot blend on the bench, and my whiskey would always be like really huge on the mango note and like huge on the saline and like really, really sweet. And she'd be like, okay, that's really great. But you have to think about it. Like, we have to think about how it would be perceived by everyone. And that's where, like, in your portfolio, it's really great to have like different styles of whiskey. You've got your cask strengths, you might have your finishes in your cask, and then you've also got your core portfolio. So it's good to make space for everything.
Basically, you're saying it would be better if you got to make whiskey for yourself and just all the flavor profiles that you personally like, and then you can try and sell that. If no one buys it, doesn't matter. At least you get to drink it. That's
literally.
Yeah.
Or if I could just like clone myself and then get all my other me's to buy it, and then not only would I be making whiskey for myself, but then I'd like be rich,
making money. Yeah. Be the market.
literally just be the market. That's it.
Where does this?
It's so easy. Why is no one else doing it?
I'm here for a salty mango whiskey. So
where does the 12-year-old sit in the other, like the core range of the Glendronach? So you've got the 12, and you talk about the 15 and the 18. Again, what you said, this is the flagship. This is the one that introduces people to the house style of Glendronach. Again, so the others, where does this one sit in that range?
So our 12, our 15, and our 18 are our core range. We do have a 10-year-old. That's probably our youngest age statement. And we have a 16, and that's for the travel retail market. So if you're passing through the airports and you're looking to try something of those age ranges, then we have those available. The 12, do you know, it's really interesting. We did this recently where I put a spider diagram out, Rachel and I, and kind of
I love a spider diagram at the Glendronach, it seems like. Love the spider.
I said it twice now. I know. What am I like? Giving all the secrets away. Spider diagrams, guys. It's all spider diagrams. That's all we do. There's not much more to it, really. Yeah, and then like put the different Glendronachs along each of those axes to see where we thought things would fall. And I think the Glendronach for me, because it embodies like the fruitiness, the spiciness, the robustness, and the kind of the mouthfeel, you get that tannic mouthfeel that comes through from the Spanish oak. It's like really quite central. And the rest then play tunes on each of those axes. On each of the axes doesn't make it sound fun and alluring, but like each of those branches or whatever, you know.
Spider legs.
Yeah. So that's
spider. Oh, so nice. Yummy.
Importantly as well to the brands, it's the single cask range as well, right? Just the single cask.
Yeah, so we do. We have we have. So if you visit the distilleries, we have a wonderful phone place. If you visit our distilleries, we always have a PX and an Oloroso single cask on. So that's a way for anybody visiting the distilleries. You get to pour it out from the little cask and you sign your label yourself. So that's one of our single cask range. And we do also have a list that we release each year to our markets around the world, filled with more delicious single cask goodies that are of higher strength, if that was something that you're so inclined to.
Oh, there you go. And Percy, do you have a favourite in the range?
I really love the 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the Parliament? Is that?
Yeah, that's Parliament. I actually know that's something that is changing with the new range. Is the names are coming off.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah, some people boo, some people. I mean, for me, yay, because I find it quite confusing just remembering them all. They've got both the name and the age, which I get. Yeah. But the 21, I don't know if anyone's had a chance to try that, but that is so rich and so gooey and so fruitcakey, and I am so inclined towards a sweet whiskey that is delicious for me. The 18 is amazing as well because you're getting to see pure Oloroso and see what that's like. If that's something that's more your drier, nuttier style. Yeah.
Again,
what about yourself? Do you have one that's a favourite? Sorry.
I had a bottle of the 15, the Revival. It was. I loved that bottle, and I had quite a few of them. So I would say that one. I remember trying the 21-year-old. I've never had a bottle of it, but I remember it being pretty goddamn good. But this one is like a real. I hate the word everyday drinker because obviously that's a stupid word that inclines that you might be an alcoholic. But I think it's like a really it's a good entry point to the brand, and it's just a really nice whiskey. And if you want to drink that kind of sherry forward Oloroso, it's just like I said, for me, it's got that savoury note in it, which I really like from sherry forward whiskies. So it's just it's the kind of thing I would open up on the regular and sip carefully. So yeah, I think we'll say goodbye to Glendronach for now, and to you, Kirsten. You've been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for imparting us.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
You are very welcome. And thank you so much for coming because we nearly didn't have you. So,
I know, literally, was it yesterday? So
no one wants to hear me talk about it. So, thank you very much. And we've got 2 other drams that we need to talk about. I have forgotten about those.
Very quickly.
Jess is going to be talking about the Bonnington. So.
I'm going to be, yeah.
I'm excited to hear your notes. I might have distilled that.
But yeah, again, thank you very much, and we'll see you at the end, hopefully.
Thanks, team.
Cheers. I'm just going to scroll down. There we go. Right. Wow. That's been 3 amazing drams.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you know what? It's going to be tough.
It's going to be a tough one.
Choose.
It's going to be a tough one tonight, I have to say. Right. Who are we starting with? You? Me? What's going on?
Oh, I don't mind. I'm happy to
Where
go.
are we? You can do it. Okay, go. Bonnington.
Okay, this is me pretending to be a Bonnington ambassador. No, I think from this is sort of one of those whiskies that like is coming before the distillery, from what I understand. So the Bonnington distillery is one of 2 new distilleries in Edinburgh, which opened in 2020. But when that distillery opened, the owners of Bonnington had already had a sort of pilot distillery. So that allowed them to release Edinburgh's first single malt in nearly a century in 2022. Obviously, that's not from the new distillery because 2 years is way too young to, well, 1 year too young to be legally called a Scotch whisky. And that initial whiskey was a John Crabbe & Co release. So this is the whiskey from Bonnington, from the Bonnington, not John Crabbe & Co.
So it's potent.
And it is a big sherry one. It's got it's matured exclusively in Pedro Jimenez sherry casks. So if you love that, like sort of sweet raisins, like almost syrupy sherry flavor, then this is definitely one for you. It is at 47%, and we've had 3 drams already tonight. So do not feel like you have to try it now, but maybe wait for an even colder evening to to warm your cockles with this one.
Yes, I'm liking the smell of that one. I've never tried this before.
Yeah, I had a good sip earlier, and it was like, oh, it's not really good.
Yeah, and I think I will be going back to that one later or at another time because that smells up my street. I'm just going to take a brief discussion about the White Heather, which apparently is considered lucky in Scotland, like the 4-leaf clover in Ireland.
Oh, okay.
There you go. So, a bit of knowledge there for you. And this one's been created by Billy Walker, who we've obviously spoken about loads of times, and we obviously talk about Glendronach now, but we'd be anywhere without Billy Walker, very absolute legend in the industry. This is kind of was a very popular blend in the 70s that he was quite fond of, so he's kind of decided to rekindle it. It's kind of a mad mash bill, like it's got a bit of Glenallachie, which is obviously another Billy Walker distillery, with some Highland malt in there and a little bit of Islay peated malt, and then some older grain whiskey. Again, it's undisclosed where it's from. It's matured in bourbon and sherry casks, and then is placed together in Pedro Jimenez and Oloroso puncheons, as well as Appalachian fresh oak, which has had no previous contents. And all of it has been aged for 15 years. And like I said, this was once a very popular blend in the 70s, and I think he's kind of kept the recipe pretty similar. So yeah, that's one for you guys to try as well. I was smelling it earlier, and really nice stuff, I have to say. Nothing like that Bonnington, which is just like, ooh. I'm looking forward to that one later. So yeah, I think we've had
2 very different drams for people to get stuck into.
two really different drams to get stuck into. I'd like to know, do you guys drink them now, usually, when we do pour and sip, or do you guys wait for those ones? Or do you drink them a bit?
I feel like I see some comments sometimes of people saying, you know, like, I'm going to have to save this, but it seems really good. But obviously, maybe that's the few and not the many.
Well, yeah, exactly. All right, then. Well, that has been wonderful. See you later, Jess. No, I'm joking. Let's bring our guests back on.
All of our guests still here, because last time I did this, I think we had one still standing.
They are all still here.
Oh, stunning.
Hasn't gone anywhere. It's been ages. How are you?
Oh my God, I know. Long time to see.
Andy is back and still here. And Gordon. And Gordon, it does feel like a very long time ago that we had previously spoken.
A few whiskies. I've loved it.
Andy, did you have a box?
Yeah. Honestly, it's been amazing actually, because as I mentioned during the chat, Glengoyne, I fell in love with. I used to just drink smoky whiskey, then I fell in love with Glengoyne, Glendronach was one of the first that I was ever given when I stepped foot in the whiskey rooms for the first time. So that was a really nice trip down memory lane. And then we now work with Dr. Kirsten McCallum, who's of course a blender at Bonnington as well. So and it's just up the road. So there's just so many nice little connections, and I've enjoyed them all.
Yeah, that's good. Gordon, did you get to try some of those as well? Did we give you a box?
All of the above.
All the above.
I've been away all the week, last 2 weekends. I've not taken a day in lieu. You sent me the box. I thought Friday will be my day in lieu. It's my only day off in the last
guys.
Tomorrow morning.
Nice.
So usually a lot of people have already started. Everyone was really enjoying that. Mike Sarton, the White Heather, was absolutely lovely. Steve Coleman Williams just realised I'm turning into Roy Hodgson, the England manager. I've just realised the next month is the Christmas party. Steve Coleman Williams. Yeah, we have got the Christmas party coming up. Anyway, usually on Pour and Sip, I'm just going to ask our guests a question, but I will ask all of you, and you can get your votes in now. Please don't be offended, guys. Can you let us know which has been your favourite dram from this month's box? This one is, again, really hard to choose from, as they always are. But please let us know which ones, some of you always give us an order, a top 5. You don't do whatever you want. What was your favourite? And for you guys, like, all of you work with a portfolio of like different brands within your portfolio. And I'm not going to ask you who your favourite child is, but is there any kind of brand that you particularly enjoy working with and resonates more with you in the brands? Andy, let's start with you. With White Mackay.
That's a difficult question. I'm in a camp of like, there's no bad whiskies. There's just like there's different, and there's one for every occasion. So it's very difficult for me to choose. So I work across Vettercairn with Jura as well, and Tamnavulin, and I love them all for different reasons. And Jura, just as a place, is so amazing. It's just the most magical little island, and you feel very secluded when you're there. So there's just something quite special about Jura as a place. Vettercairn was the first that I worked with when I joined White Mackay just over 5 years ago, and that's a very special place as well, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know, different styles.
What's the time and the place for a Jura? Yeah.
What's the time and the place for a Jura? Probably my favourite like memory was we set up a game of 5-a-side football on the Isle of Jura, and for anyone who's ever been, there's just a wee bit of grass right outside the front of the pub, and there's the pub on one side and then there's the sea on the other side, and there's a wee bit of grass, and we had all of our German team over, and we set up a game of football. It was Jura versus Germany, and we were all sipping whiskey, playing 5-a-side, and the ball spent more time in the water than it did on the grass. That was my favourite Jura. It was 3-3, and we decided not to take it to penalties because it was getting quite heated. So we all just went back. We all just went back to the pub.
I would have left that. Look, you know what, guys? We've all come all the way here. Let's just leave it as a draw.
It was great. We're waiting for the return leg, but they haven't invited us over to Germany yet, so we'll figure it
out. What about you, Gordon? You got Smokehead as well in there, right?
Yeah. Because Glengoyne's one end of the spectrum, the non-smoky, I am sort of like a moth to the flame with smoky whiskies. We've got Smokehead. We're actually building on Islay right now. Lagan Bay will go live in about a year and a half, maybe 2 years' time. Where the Islay boys are doing their brewery first, so they're building it for us. A brewery first, distillery second. So I love it. I love these whiskies tonight. Jura, Glendronach. I mean, come on. These are absolutely amazing. So listen, I like anything in a glass that has been made in Scotland, and I might even dabble out with these shores, but I just love discovering whiskies, and these are 2 great discoveries tonight. So
is there anything you've tried recently outside of your portfolio that you've just gone, that was something I tried and that was amazing and just took me by surprise?
Yeah, all the time. I'm always constantly, so I'm very lucky to go to these whiskey fairs, and guys give you a ridiculous, I was drinking I think a 21 Talisker 3 nights ago in Prague. It's just it's a lovely dram as well. So yeah, you ask me that next week, I'll say something different. It's just again, I keep on Scotland is amazing. It's an amazing place with amazing breadth of whiskies. I think tonight's shown that as well. So everywhere, all over. It's just,
all of it. Is that the same for you, Kirsten, as well?
Yeah, that's the same for me. And I think about that. The answer to my question would be like, depends on the time of the day.
Yeah.
You know, I would have my sherry Glendronach with my coffee. I'd probably have my tropical, slightly saline Glenglassaugh with some lunch, maybe some Cullen from Cullen Skink, which is right next door. Cullen Skink from Cullen, not the other way around, which is right next door. And then maybe finishing with some Ben Riach, which is obviously near Elgin, and it's a beautiful, like, sweet apples and pears finisher. So all of them. Yeah, all of them.
Yeah. I've always been saying Glenglassaugh. How do you pronounce it?
I say Glenglassaugh,
Yeah.
but that might be the West Coast of me.
Okay. All right. So I might not be wrong. Or am I wrong?
Why don't we go round? Everyone say Glenglassaugh and we'll see how it sounds.
Okay.
I feel like I'm inclined to agree with someone who is Scottish here.
Yeah. Oh God, I'm not claiming to be right at all in any of this. Right, Jess, do you want to talk us through some of these voting?
Be keeping an eye.
So it's gone quite far, isn't it?
You can count, Andy. No, so Soccer, I'm saying Glendronach.
Wow. That was lovely.
We've got lots of people are singing praise for Bonnington, but I don't know if that was before the vote started. So we have Steve Hadididi saying the Glendronach, Steve Colin Williams, Jura, but it's a solid evening yet again. Thank you, Steve. Simon Smith, Glendronach, but all good. Tony Capon, great box, but Glendronach tops the list. Richard Ringrove, Jura for me tonight. All three are crackers, though. Everyone's saying it's all great. Steve Colin Williams has got a database, and he says, at the time of writing, all 5 whiskies have 4 out of 5 on the database, so absolutely no offense should be taken. Simon says, Jura for me, but enjoyed everything. Pexman said, number 1 is Glengoyne, as their wife can drink it, but tied place is the Glendronach. Mike Bizzaro, great box all round. Chris, all 3 were good. All were winners. We're not here for that, Chris. Greg, the Glengoyne is a first, only by a nose. Peter Burke can't choose. And Real Blinger says, I love Pete, so I'm liking the White Heather, but I really like the Glengoyne.
Yeah.
A lot of ties, actually. I think usually people can make a decision.
And what it really goes to show everybody is that whiskey is very subjective, and we all have different palates, and that at the end of the day, we all like different things, but it's always nice to have a favourite. But anyway.
No, you guys have to have the cast and vote. We need to decide.
No, yeah. You has a draw between.
No, decide.
Now we need.
You don't go to penalties. You get
This is going to penalties. This is going to penalties. Jess, you have the deciding vote.
I think my Wi-Fi is breaking up, guys. I'm really sorry.
I liked them all, and actually, the only one tonight, I tried the Glengoyne before, and I had that 12-year-old. The Jura was the first time I tried that one tonight. They were all really good. I'm putting myself.
Shout out to the Pour and Sip team for making that one.
Yeah. Well done, Pour and Sip team. And I think I can't remember what it was the same. We often do Pour and Sip, and we go for different parts of the world, and we try lots of world whiskey and just really different flavour profiles. But what this has shown is sometimes you don't even need to go across the world to try majorly different flavour profiles, because it's all there in Scotland as well.
There's 3 different regions, right, in this one as well. So there's a little bit of differentiation.
Exactly. So that's
our hosting job.
Yeah, exactly. All right then. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining in. And I think Steve Colin Williams is right in saying that our next Pour and Sip will be our Christmas extravaganza.
Kind of terrifying, but
which is terrifying.
I'll be excited when we get there.
Yeah, I can't remember the date. There is a date in place, but I don't remember it right now, so I'm not going to promise anything on any days. I'm just not going to be there. So just keep tuned to the Pour and Sip newsletters. Remember, you can get your discount in the Pour and Sip shop on any of these bottles that we've tried tonight. So please hurry if you want to get one of those, because the box won't last. And anyway, goodbye, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank all our guests. And Sandra.